separate? Do you have the, where the gifts?
It's got.
I was like, they're here. Not sure where.
So we had gifts, we give our hosts, and they are pictures that Sabrette paints of aspen trees. Now, aspen trees have no meaning for us, based on what I was telling you yesterday. There's a root system underneath these solo trees. And so, Sabrette? Yeah, sorry.
Oh, it's okay, I'm lying. So I know, well, I don't know because I didn't plan one, but I can imagine all the work and everything that goes into planning this and hosting us, and so just a small thank you guys for welcoming us here and everything that goes into this, and we just want to truly appreciate you guys for everything that you did and for having such a wonderful meeting.
These, and for those newer to the community, these are Sabrette's paintings.
Wow.
She paints these beautiful aspen trees for our host, Sabrette. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
So yeah, you guys, whichever one you prefer.
Thank you. That's the one I want. That's beautiful. Thank you.
And Andrew, it's over to you now.
Okay. Wow.
This is, you don't need this.
I don't need that. Good morning. I hope you feel our joy as you experience the next 3 hours, because to us, that's what magic is. And I want to just thank Rob and Danielle for being our champions. That one night when we were sitting in the Chicago Magic Lounge, and we all three looked at each other and simultaneously said, "I love you." And then we said, you know, it would be really cool to have a meeting built around magic. And from words, thoughts begin, and then the words come out, and abracadabra, it takes form. And then from here, who knows what the ripple is that goes out from being immersed in this idea of magic. How we're experiencing it, and then you go out into the world, and how you've been influenced and impacted, how does that affect the people that you touch? And it's this ripple that goes out. So I want to thank you two for championing this meeting. And I want to thank the board for saying yes. Because one of the challenges with an AMI meeting is that this does have its roots. It needs to be grounded in, let's face it, a lot of us are here because our organizations say, yes, here's some money for you to do this. So to have a meeting about magic, what's that have to do with improving our business or growing our markets or whatever is your focus? For the board to say, yes, let's move forward with this and trust that 6 magicians are going to make that valuable in that context. I hope that when we talk in 3 hours that you'll say, man, that was worth the investment. That's our intention. And finally, I want to thank Stan. He's the center for so many of us. And we were at lunch a few times, and I was telling him about these magicians that I'm meeting from all different places that are using magic for a deeper purpose. And he looks at me and he says, "You ought to form an AMI for magicians." And I said, "What's the franchise fee?" And suddenly a lawyer appeared. So you don't get through 40 years without being shrewd. So I thank all of you, and I just want to introduce you to Magic on Purpose. There are 8 of us, 6 of us are here, 2 of us couldn't be here, and yet you're going to be able to experience their magic. So you'll experience the magic of 8 people. And we came together to simply support each other in doing good work in the world using magic. And as we spent time together, we realized that there's something deeper here. And as we discussed, what's the purpose of Magic on Purpose, this emerged. That this is what we want to do, is to bring magic back to the world. And when you experience a magic, we don't call them tricks. I mean, when we're working with each other, it's shorthand, so we do say tricks, and that's been the vernacular for centuries, this is a trick, but we don't refer to them as tricks. They're magical experiences. We want to give you some magical experiences. And I really want to invite you to have this experience these next 3 hours in that way. It's inevitable, because of the way our brains work, that your neocortex is going to say, how'd you do that? How do you do that? That's natural. And we think that way. I mean, it's the way our brains work. And if you think back to Wednesday evening and I made a toast and I was pouring my drink and I let go and it floated, right? What was your reaction?
Aw.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Now there might have been, you might have also started saying, how did he do that? But I think every single one of you, I bet money, every single one of you, before you started saying, how do you do that? I bet every single one of you had that experience of, wow. And if you're like me when I experience magic, there's also can you put yourself back in that moment when the glass is floating? Did you go, wow, on some level? So ancient shamans, medicine women, medicine men would perform simple magic tricks. They'd pick up a stone off the ground, they'd put it in their hand. They're working with you one-on-one, and they'd show you their hand was empty, and you would have that moment of wow. And that was a sacred moment, because in that moment you experienced the divine. A doorway cracks open, and on some level you realize, wait a minute, maybe anything is possible. What a moment. In that moment, that wow moment, I think it's joy. I think it's an opening, and I think it's hope. I think magic is about hope, because isn't that what possibilities, when you lose the sense that there are possibilities, you've lost hope, and down you go into the rabbit hole. So I invite you to be with us in that space today and to do your very best. It's almost a meditation to stay in that moment of wow and just take in that feeling, that experience. So we're here to bring some magic to you as we started to dig into how do we bring magic in the world. We're using magic for more than entertainment. Magic has probably never been more popular, and yet most of it is about entertainment, and there's nothing wrong with that. I love a good magic show. And yet there's so much more. There's the wow. You're going to see some of my colleagues showing you things that will you'll shift your perspectives. You'll have ways of changing your thinking. It's a rich way for us to open up to experience parts of our brain. I'm convinced, someday we'll do a study, that there's something going on across hemispheres when you're experiencing a message with magic. I think there's a creative and a logical that's going on that opens us up more. And so the other thing is we want to honor the human spirit and elevate possibilities for human beings. So, my colleague David is going to kind of let you know what lies ahead and share with you the process that we're going to go through.
Thank you, Andrew. So, this morning, we are so excited to be sharing these presentations with you. Here's how it's going to go. We are going to have a series of magical presentations. We're going to do about 4, and then we'll do a debrief. So I encourage you to be jotting down notes. What does it make you think of? What are some ahas that you're having? Jot them down, and after 4, we'll do a little debrief. We'll have a break. 4 more, and then we'll start to wrap things up. So we'll reflect and discuss a little bit. This is an important one, just to sort of echo what Andrew was saying, that ultimately, these are magical effects that hopefully will wow you. At the same time, what you do with them is up to you. It's about you making the connections that are important to you, and what is important to one person may not be to another. So really think about, what can I take away from this? Because that's where some of the growth and the magic really lies. All right. And also, we would like you to think about, and we asked the folks at the workshop this question, and we'd like you to come back to it if you already had created that question. What would you like to create that seems impossible? And think about that as you see these effects, see these presentations, and see if it might just crack open, as Andrew was saying, a little bit of possibility for you. All right? So with that, I'm going to introduce Dan Trometer. I think most of you, if not all of you, have met Dan. Coming from Toronto, he really focuses on the power of empathy in his keynotes and workshops. And I'm excited to see what he has for us today. Take it away, Dan.
Thank you very much. Thanks. So, right, empathy. I think one of the best ways to tap into empathy is to recognize that we're making assumptions all the time. Assumptions about what other people are thinking, what other people are motivated by. We're full of assumptions. So, we start today with a piece of magic to challenge your assumptions. Give you, good? Yeah? Can we hear me? Good. I want to challenge your assumptions about what's possible. As we said on Wednesday, if you believe it's impossible, it is impossible. So, piece of magic to challenge your assumptions. I'm going to show you something that you not only assume is impossible, you know it's impossible. It involves that little red box and a $100 bill. I brought the box. Who's got a bill I can borrow? Doesn't have to be 100. It can be a 5 or a 10 or 20, but this is hilarious with 100. Who's got a bill? And it's only a loan, don't worry. What you got?
I have 20.
You got 20? 1/5 as funny as 100, but it'll work.
Right.
Good. You got a marker?
Yeah, it's about as funny as my bank account.
Like I'll give you the marker. You take that, sign your name nice and big right across the face of that 20.
Okay.
That way we know it's yours.
Will they take it?
I love that you didn't even hesitate. Will they take it? Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, they still take it. If you
Yeah,
don't know.
it's only a minor felony.
Okay. I'll take it. I'll do it.
Minor felony. Minor felonies are like being kind of pregnant. $20 bill with Michael's name on it identifies it so we know it's his, not just some bogus duplicate. Now, a lot of times you see magicians, they don't tell you what to expect. I'm going to tell you exactly what to expect. I'm going to fold the bill into a nice, neat little bundle, put that bundle inside of my empty left hand. I'll then wave my empty right hand over it. It will disappear. It'll fly invisibly through space, and it will land in the little red box. You know that's impossible. The bill. The wave. The disappearance. The complete lack of reaction. Right. But you know there's more. Michael, come on out. Come on around behind the box, open the box. pull out what you find. A little bag, go ahead and open up the bag. Pull out what is therein. A lime, yes. Well, more specifically, that's a $20 lime. Over this way. So, looks good?
Investment.
It is an investment, yeah. Let's cut this thing open, shall we? Do you have a knife?
I don't.
You don't? I do. I actually got it last year after a failed mugging attempt. I got to tell you, now that I have the knife, they're much more successful attempts. I'm going to cut the lime in half, but not straight through the half. I'm going to circumnavigate the equator of this little citrus plant. Circuitously, yes, circumnavigate, it's a nautical term.
Shout out.
Grab the top, twist, and lift. There's something in there. Grab it. I was a little stuck. Yeah. It's a 20, or it's a bill. Open it up. It's 20. Can't be the same 20, right? That's not possible. And yet he shows you his signature. And that is possible.
Let's try this out.
So, what you have just seen is impossible. You know it deep in your bones. Cannot be done. And it happened 3 feet away from you. I think that's special. I think that's a real powerful reminder that possibility is an attitude. If you believe it's impossible, it's impossible. If you believe it's possible, you're going to put that work in and make it happen. I believe that. I know that that is a powerful thing. I also know you really can't hear me because your brain is too busy with this question. Right? That's a natural human reaction. You see something you don't understand immediately, you jump into problem-solving mode. So until we address this question, all you hear from me is wah, 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 wah. So, in your mind, think about this question. How did I do that? Come up with a theory. How I can take his signed $20 bill, make it disappear and show up inside the box, inside the bag, inside of the line. Get a theory. Once you have a theory, rate your confidence in that theory on a scale from 1 to 10. 10 being I'm absolutely certain that my theory is correct, 1 not so much. Okay? So who has a theory? Maybe we can get a mic for these. Love it. Cool. Who's got a theory? I saw it. Thank you.
When you asked him if he had a knife, and we were all focused on him opening the box, you pushed the bill into the line.
Interesting. So I just want to make sure I understand.
Poured it out.
So, sorry?
You had already taken the core of the lime out,
I see, all right.
or something like
There was a hole in there. Okay.
and you slid it in, which is why you could do the circumnavigation of the cutting.
Okay, love it. So the theory is, as I understand
Because you
it.
distracted us while you were swapping out the line.
Got it. So, theory is there's a little hole in there. After some distraction, I shoved it up. Love it. Excellent. On a scale from 1 to 10, how confident are you?
I'm like a 10.
10 out of 10. Confident woman. I love it. Good. Anybody else share that theory? Yeah, good. So there's some hands. Another theory. How'd I do it? In the back.
My guess is.
What? On the mic.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah, my guess is you had it arranged with him in advance and there wasn't 20 in there to begin with.
Michael and I are in cahoots.
I have to say it was good.
Michael and I are in cahoots. So he maybe signed 2 20s. Interesting. Very good. On a scale from 1 to 10, your confidence?
1.
I love that that didn't stop you from very boldly stating that. Run with it. Good. One more. How did I do it?
So a 1 off of Laura's, but when you were slicing the lime, you slid the 20 back in.
I see. So instead of there being a hole,
Yeah, because
as I was cutting, I
yes,
love it. On a scale from 1 to 10?
9.
9 out of 10. Let's get one more. Anybody have a theory that's different? Cool. Good. Good theories all around. Yeah, one more?
It was magic.
It's magic! Somebody finally figured it out.
For the most part.
Good theories all around. I'm going to tell you a story. It's the story of how it came to be that I actually asked this question. This is not a normal question for a magician to ask. Normally it's, here's a trick, and now let's move on before you have too much time to think. So already we're thinking a little differently by asking this question. So it came to be that I asked this question because, oh boy, 8 years ago I was working, did a half-day workshop for an executive retreat. Senior leadership team of this company. I opened with this trick just to make the point that I made earlier about possibility being an attitude. And then I moved on. At lunch, it became clear that I was the only person who had moved on. Because the president of the company came up to me and he said, Dan, that trick with the line is fantastic. I know how you did it. Oh, yeah? Really? Yeah. Okay, how did I do it? Oh, it was obvious, you... And then he gave me his theory. It was a good theory. Could have worked. Plausible. I said, yeah, that's good. Are you sure? He looked at me right in the eye and he said, well, of course I'm sure. It's the only physical explanation for how you could have done that. What I told him is what I'd like to tell you, that in the last 15 years of doing that piece of magic, I've used at least a dozen methods. At least 12 completely different physical techniques to achieve the exact same end result. And when I told him that, he looked like I punched him in the nose. Like his brain exploded at the idea that there could have been more than one right answer. And he thought about it. He said, well, if that's true, and I believe you that that's true, that you have 15 different answers and I thought I had the only right one, well, then that tells me I need to go back to the office. And I need to look at all the things that we as an organization think we have the only right answer for. And we need to question those things. Smart guy, doing smart things. Successful company, great business. But in that moment, he realized that by blindly following yesterday's right answers for today's problems, or projecting those out into some unknown future, he was opening up himself, his company, the lives of everybody his company touched to a lot of risk. So that's the challenge for you. Now, I'm not saying that assumptions are necessarily always bad. I don't want you to toss your assumptions. I want you to test your assumptions. I'm going to tell you why this is important to me. Oh, by the way, that's just a long way of saying I'm not telling. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. There's two reasons. One is very personal, and one I think it can apply a little more to you. For me, personally, I don't want to tell you because I think magic is special. We as intelligent adults don't get that much wonder in our lives. So if I give you a little moment of wonder with a piece of magic, that's very precious. If I tell you how it's done, I'm pulling that rug of wonder out from under you. I think that's not nice. I like to soak in wonder. That's my personal view. What applies to you a little more is, who cares? It's a trick! Why is that so important? You don't know how your car really works. Right? Open the hood on your car. That's not keeping you up at night. At the end of the day, all you care is that the car works. Right? Turn the key, go to work, good, right? How it's done is not important. That it's done is what's important. Nobody that you help cares how you do your job. They care that you do your job. Provided you comply with the ethical standards of your field and that you do a good job, obviously, right? They don't care about the minutiae. They don't care about the nuts and bolts. They care about the results that you're giving them. how it's done is less important than the fact that you are actually doing it. And over to, we have a very professional, well-planned morning that I just forgot that I have the next job. I am very delighted to be able to introduce one of my friends and brothers in this endeavor of Magic on Purpose, all the way from France, Philippe Janis.
It seems that we like red things.
It's a magic thing, I think.
I think so. I'm still jet lagged, so last night I didn't sleep. And I went into positive turbulence. That weren't so positive. And I doubted what I would do this morning. I had a choice between playing it safe or playing it true. Hard one. In my cover job, I help other people solve that kind of difficult, I do leadership development. So it's a key question whether you are oriented towards your fear or purpose, safety, and I decided that I would do something totally new. So if there was a place that I could really innovate and take risk, it was in this space. So it's a brand new piece of magic, you'll see. Well, I know it's scary, and I like that. So I've written the manual of this piece because I don't know it yet totally. So it's a prototype, and I'd love to get feedback afterwards. And I wonder what would be the most beautiful piece of magic I could do if I was a real magician. And I think I would transform the whole universe into something much more loving, and I will transform our whole identity and consciousness. So that's what I'm going to do. You will be transformed. I know it's a little bold, but the theme of the conference is making the impossible possible, so that's what we are going to do. I'm still wondering if it will work, you know. I'm not an ordinary magician. I'm a meta-magician. You know, meta-magicians do magic with metaphysics, with the structure of reality, not only with objects, but what is deep inside. And I'm totally fascinated by the deep structure of reality. On the outside of reality, which is science, and on the inside of reality, which is consciousness, what's going on inside. And so that's what I'm going to do. There's a key distinction I'd like to introduce, which is a distinction between the outside and the inside. It seems to be quite a deep, real distinction that we all live by. We have an inside and an outside. There's an inside of this community, and there's an outside. It seems to be quite solid as a distinction. And this box could symbolize this quite easily. There's an outside, which is visible, which is the outside structure, which is technology, which is all what you want, you can see and feel and touch. And there's an inside. What's inside the outside? Let's have a look. There's what seems to be a black box, by the way. And for most of us, what's inside is a black box. We don't really know what's going on inside. And most of our culture, most of our endeavors are oriented towards the outside. So I will do real magic and show you what's inside. There's a beautiful empty space. And you know what? This empty space is incredibly vast. It's so vast that it can contain the outside. Actually, it's the only thing I've kept from my original idea. The true magic is now. You are all innovating, and I feel that most of innovation is done on the outside of reality. Technology, all what we do is on the outside. There's not much innovation on the inside. We're becoming very powerful on the outside, and on the inside we're getting somehow stuck. So the magic I want to do is to do some innovation on the inside of reality. How do we innovate on the inside? Any idea? Oh, of time. So let's have a little experience. Please close your eyes for a few minutes. It's easier for a magician. But more deeply, there are realities you can see with the eye opens. There are other realities you can see only with your eyes closed. Anthony, you can take the wallets. Imagine you are 95 years old. You are on your bed. You know that not so far you will leave this world. And you are thinking of the past, you're thinking of your childhood. You are thinking of all those beautiful moments you lived by, the things you did, the things you missed. And we are remembering this incredible moment you had, I think it was in Chicago, in November, at this AMI meeting that was so beautiful. And you just missed that moment. And you say, if only I could go back there. Please open your eyes. You are there. A very small little bit of magic. What did I do in the inside? I just told you a story. The way we innovate in the inside is to tell a story, and to tell a better story than the one we are in. So my ambition to transform reality and to transform each of us, I'm part of it, is to tell a new story. And I'm still 11 minutes to tell a story that will change the whole reality. I feel we need a new story because all the story we have been living by doesn't work anymore. We have had many stories in the story of humanity. We have had, if we go through all the stage of development, we have had the tradition, which is a beautiful story, with honor, dignity, with a lot of values, rules. We had modernity with science, progress. And now we are mainly stuck in post-modernity, where the main story is there is no more story. The main narrative is there's no narrative. So I feel the need for a new one. And what could be the best story I could tell to you? Actually, it's a twofold story. The first part is this one. And it speaks to you because you are part of the story. You are deeply part of it. We live in an innovative universe. Rather easy to prove it. You go from the Big Bang till now. It's innovation over innovation. Quark, atoms, cells, molecules, first complex molecules, prokaryote, eukaryote, vegetal, and all the way up till here now. So it's quite a longer record story of innovation. And we live in this. But the other part of the story is this story is living inside of us, just like the boxes. The outside is also the inside. Within each of us, there's this quark, atoms, molecules. All the evolution is alive in us right now. I think it's a beautiful way to conceive the reality we are in. And it changes the way we can see ourselves. I see each of us, and each of you and myself, as a unique expression of this innovative universe. Unique, and in the booklet, in your values, you speak about gifts. With each of us, our unique gifts, our unique perspective on the world, our unique way of doing things, our unique circle of influence and intimacy in which we can change things. So this is the main thing I'd like you to come by. Normally, in any magical effect, there's something called a prestige, which is a little element at the end which makes things even better. The prestige in this trick will be just this. What's animating this story? What's the key force that made you come here? I think it's allurement, or another way to say it, it's love, and which makes things get together, forms a larger whole, and all those wholes get together, emerge, growing complexity on the outside, in consciousness and love in the inside. So the story I offer you is we are all participating to the evolution of consciousness and to the evolution of love. Thank you.
I would like to introduce one of our magicians who is not able to be with us. His name is Vinh Giang, and Vinh is Vietnamese, and he lives in Australia, and he's temporarily residing in Los Angeles. He's come to the United States to sack us of all of our money and then go back to Australia. That was supposed to be funny. Here he is. So Vinh has, over the years as a magician, developed really powerful presentation skills. And he works with people to deepen the way that your presence and your ability to communicate your ideas. And so we're going to show you a video of Vinh's, and it'll give you a sense of his special kind of magic.
I want to show you a quick magic trick. You see, right here in my hands, if you come real close, you see right here I've got the Ace of Diamonds. Don't take your eyes off it. All I do is I wave my hands across it, just like that, and it turns into the King of Spades. So I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, Vinh, how did you do this? How is it done? So if I asked all of you who are watching this right now, I asked you to recreate this trick for me right now, how many of you can do it? Maybe one or two, if you're a magician. But why is it that 99% of you, why is it that you all can't do it? It's because you don't have the knowledge. You don't know how to do it. The difference between you and I in this moment is that I know how this is done, and you don't. So let's close the knowledge gap. So I'm going to teach you how to do it, really quickly. If you want to go into a more detailed tutorial, I'll leave the link down below. But you see, all I did was I turned over 2 cards as one. And then what I did next was I pushed one card out, used my palm to pull the other card underneath it towards me. And then I slid it over the top. Now it seems really simple when I explain it, but the practice is much more difficult. But here's the thing. If you now have the knowledge, if I ask you the question now, how many of you think you could do this after a week's practice? All of a sudden, I think 50, 60, 70% of you all of a sudden believe you can now do this if you had time to practice. What's the difference between when I asked you a moment ago if you could do it versus now? Now you have the knowledge. Can you see the connection between knowledge and belief? Initially, when you were looking at the trick when I was performing it and I asked you, oh, can you do this? Currently, you didn't have enough knowledge. So as a result of that, it impacted your values and beliefs. So you thought to yourself, I believe I cannot do this. The moment there was more knowledge, all of a sudden that changed your beliefs. And you went from, I believe I can't do it, to, oh yeah, I can. So knowledge actually influences our values and beliefs. This is just a message for those of you who are reaching for your goals, who are trying to achieve their dreams, pushing towards their full potential and finding it difficult, and at times feeling like you want to give up. This is a message for you. Don't lose faith. Don't lose heart. Just know that the reason why you're not achieving the things you desire is not because you're not capable. The reason you're not there yet is just because you lack the right knowledge. There's a great saying that a great speaker named Les Brown says. He says there are 3 kinds of people in the world. There are winners, there are losers, and then there are just people who haven't learned how to win yet. Anytime I want to do anything in my life, when I wanted to become a magician, what did I do? I immediately start started to read books on magic, to buy DVDs on magic, to try to meet with certain magicians, to learn from them, to gain the right knowledge to be able to succeed. What's happening in today's world is that so many of us now expect to succeed without doing the study, expect to succeed without going through the hardships. We simply just expect that because we want this dream, we deserve it. We forget that we must earn the things we desire. We don't just automatically get them handed to us, regardless of how complex what you're trying to achieve seems. Just like when I showed you a magic trick, it seems so complex and so impossible. As you gain and build more knowledge, the complexity will gradually become simpler and simpler and simpler. The steps will be broken down for you, A through to Z, but you must seek that knowledge. You know, magic only looks impossible because you don't know how it's done. And success looks like magic. A lot of the times we look at people who are successful and go, my God, how do they do that? It seems ridiculous. It seems like it could never be done. It only looks like that because they know how and you don't. So the moment you close that gap in the knowledge, you now are one step closer to making the impossible possible. And one last thought. Knowledge alone isn't enough. And it's why I want you to remember this. To go from survival to security, you must build on your knowledge. But to go from security to success, you must apply the knowledge you learn.
And it's not over. I have the delight to introduce to you somebody who is not only a rock star mentalist, but is a beautiful specimen of human being. Chris.
Keep me up at night. You keep me up at night. Your question specifically keeps me up at night. This idea that fooling, that tricking, it's a negative idea. I mean, it's a negative concept. I get fooled 3.2 times a day. No, I do. I know this because last summer, for 6 weeks, I wrote down every time I was fooled. I don't like being fooled. I hate being fooled. And I fool people for a living. I've worked with law enforcement agencies to prevent them from being fooled. I've listened to hours of scam artists on telephones and taken apart those things so that people can learn. I recognize this dark side of deception that you're talking about, and it keeps me up at night. I hate being fooled. Or do I? Here's the question. I got fooled 3 times on the way, on the 24 hours coming here. 3 times I got fooled. I didn't write them down in my little journal, but 3 times I got fooled. The first time, I got fooled by a major evil corporation. Then I got fooled by myself, and then I got fooled by one of you. I won't embarrass you by indicating which one of you it was, but I will tell you all 3 ways I got fooled. The first time was United Airlines. United Airlines brags about their on-time departure. Highest in the industry. So I took United Airlines. Many of you are flyers and you know that on-time departure simply means the plane is pulled away from the gate. We're on time! No, you're not, unless I'm on time when I get there. There are industry standards and industry practices that will share that with you. But I was fooled by United. I took their airplane and I sat on the tarmac for an hour. I arrived here, it was cold, so I put my sweatshirt on. In a complete idiotic state,
the sweatshirt I happened to put on was a Boston Red Sox. I know, I'm not a bright man. This didn't occur to me, wasn't even thinking about it, safely made it through O'Hare, which was a concern. And I still hadn't processed the fact that I was wearing a Boston Red Sox shirt. And I get into the Uber, and the Uber driver immediately says to me, Boston Red Sox! And I'm like, I'm not really even a baseball fan. My brother-in-law's shirt's just comfy and I stole it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm wearing a shirt. And so the skeptical side of my brain immediately went to the idea that and this is common in a lot of service interactions where somebody's trying to work on a tip, they'll immediately take something off. You probably had it right out in the street where somebody says, hey, Harvard University, I went there, and then would you buy my music CD? It's just a way to ingratiate themselves. And that's immediately what I assumed this driver was doing. He was just going to ingratiate himself to me. I'm not really a baseball fan, so I didn't, so I kind of came clean. I'm like, I don't need, it's not going to work. And so I had been fooled by him. Because in a half-hour trip from O'Hare to where I'm staying, he talked Red Sox nonstop. No one other than I fooled myself. I had a preconceived notion, an idea about how a little trick of the mind works with ingratiating yourself, and I put that on me. Fooled myself. Got up the next morning, came to the Zachary, meeting all sorts of wonderful people. Was a little slightly self-conscious. I was talking to one individual. We were talking about how difficult it was to get out, to get all your things, your family, and get it all ready to go for an extended period of time. And this individual said, shared their concerns along the same way. And I said, I meant to get a haircut. I didn't get a haircut, so now I got this bush of hair on my head, and it doesn't look good. And he or she said to me, no, it looks great. You're a magician. You got kind of that magic vibe going on. And it made me feel really good. Well, it's very charismatic, as many of you are. And just honestly, right straight, I believed it. And I had a great evening. And then, went into the bathroom and saw that objectively, my hair was terrible. And so, so I had that dopamine shot initially, and now I'm it's a disaster. And then it occurred to me, the reason that person fooled me about my hair was out of empathy. That person liked me, and they didn't want me to feel bad. They deceived me to make me feel better. And they liked me, which gave me another dopamine shot. So I got 2. So I was actually pretty even. Fooled in 2 negative ways and fooled in a very, very positive way. I think of these practices as a toolkit. And yes, they can be used for some very, very negative purposes. But they can also be used to entertain, to amaze, to be the awe that everyone has spoken of. So, I hate to be fooled, but I'm going to give you a chance to fool me. And I'm going to ask this group of folks to come right up here, if you would, please. If you stand in a line right across here, that's perfect. I will not embarrass you. I will not make anybody look foolish. And you need to put a little emotional pressure on you right now for this to work. As a mentalist, I should say up front, these things don't always work. This is based on psychology, scamology, a whole bunch of hours. But so I'm going to predicate that. Predicate this with that. One of these folks is going to lie to us. And we are going to try to determine who that is. I'm the professional, so I'm the one who's got to get it right. The emotional pressure I have to put on you is to tell you just a little bit about myself, and that I am not an object guy. I'm not a material person. I don't invest in things at all, except one thing. That's my wedding ring. I am happily married to the most wonderful woman in the world, and this is the only object in my life which I feel like I can never replace. I would feel lost without it. Great. I'm trying to give it emotional weight intentionally, but it's also true. What I'm going to ask you to do in just a moment is to turn your back and form a small hug and pass the ring around. And then I'm going to ask you to turn back around and rejoin the line with everyone's hands closed and arms extended just like this. Okay? One of you will have the ring. You will all know probably who has the ring. We should not. So I'm going to walk to kind of hide the huddle here and use my girth to scream at that time. So do we understand your task? All right. Turn towards the screen and move together in a huddle. Bring your hands together so we have no idea who has it. Pass it around. You may change it a couple of different times, but we don't know. All right. All right, and once you are done, everyone's hands, before you even step away from the huddle, everyone's hands to the sides, fingers up. Look at your hands and make sure they appear normal. One of you is carrying an extra heavy weight of my heart in your hand. So at this point, what I would like you to do is turn around, bring a step forward. Hands, yep, just like this one. This way, perfect. Yep. All right. I want them about the same height because it's going to be it's going to, great. Perfect. All right. I want you to answer a question honestly, except for the liar. Is the coin in this hand? Is the coin in this hand? Is the coin in this hand? Yes. Is the coin in this hand? Yes. The coin in this hand? Is the coin in this hand? Is the coin in this hand? Is the coin in this hand?
No.
Is the coin in this hand?
No.
I'm going to ask you a few nonsense questions. You may answer any way you want. Red or blue? Blue. Aardvark or pink lemonade?
Lemonade.
3 plus 4.
4.
Which mother's maiden name?
Robinette.
So I'm obviously looking for subtle cues here and not getting it. These folks, I've actually had a conversation with you, but everybody else here, I've had a chance to talk with it a little bit, which is actually making things a little bit difficult for me. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to eliminate everybody who doesn't have a coin and every hand that doesn't have a coin. So now would you open up this hand right there and turn it over? Just open it. Rob, take this hand and throw down hard. With that hand right down. Do it! Both hands over your head. Clap. Yeah, do it! Did you tell me the truth? You don't need to answer anymore. You don't have the coin at all. Now I've just gotten past, 50%. So really no big deal so far. Rob, coming over and high five Deborah with this hand. Okay, no, I'm sorry. You do okay? Yeah, you're right. This too loud? No, would you give me back my wife's ring? Yes, you did. Straight up fooled me when she said I don't have I did the introduction you guys did.
Wow. Now we're going to kind of reflect on these 4 performances that you've seen, these magical experiences. So I want you to just individually, before we move to a little table conversation, just individually think about the experiences that you just had, these 4 performances. And just reflect for a minute and, you know, write down your thoughts if you'd like, but this is preparing for a little table conversation. Okay, forgive me if you already know this, but I always think it's important to point it out. About 50% of the population are introverted. They have an introverting preference, right? You need to think before you speak. Extroverts tend to want to speak in order to think. So I always, when I'm processing, I always give people time to take a few minutes just to write down so that everybody can bring their best thinking to the table. So now, turn to your tables and share with each other, what did you take away from the presentations? What stands out for you? What did you get value? What value did you get? And we're going to take about 15 minutes for this conversation, and then we'll be sharing our thoughts as a large group. Good.
Like, I had to trust a lot of that I'm gonna give a $2. Even now, like, I trust you. Such a good idea to get back what I hate. And it's how because my belief is now what said about how does the stories that we have inside impact those It's how these simple things. That question through experiences,
Have you seen those? Knowledge changes. And then it's not just that they're magicians and not really even understanding how they do it. That's not.
Well, no, but anyway.
Which way? I experienced something years ago. A lot of the nations talking to we're going there. You're on for the ride. I'm driving. I are you when you get into that what are you going to make? I have my own perspective, so I'm not Oh no. Yeah, right.
I've always had the feeling
It's hard to get different answers. That makes a lot of sense because usually you're not early, but for I was like, I don't want to learn trades also. Whatever it is. Yes, it was some. I want to hire him and make two people who are in looks whenever they're inspired or whatever. Yeah. Who is this? Like, you kind of thought we were going to go, but this was like he really with it. I think he did Google and got additional. How did you that's always. And so I have a can for my email. I never see that body. But I switch up actually. I think surprise me. I know it's going to happen because so I wanted to see where let's see, you know. Yes, because they talk about how to create real magic in your life. And that's why it's just the we just tossed that idea. I put this question down. I will let you know your word if you want more of it. After 2 months, and that's your power of work. Like that word of the that just wanted that whole thing. And the video like real magic. Real magic. State of presence. Whatever. I don't know. That's too much. It is real. It is magic. Yeah. But it's not wizardry. I don't like it. I
just as a tool. We're good for people. It's a tool set. Who have different reasons for assignment or the light show. Yes, I accept that they can be negative but I can't control that. So the hard part is that there's outright exposure and right. So that's always striving.
Let's take 1 more minute. 1 more minute. To wrap up your conversations.
Okay, let's come back together. So we would love to hear some of the great conversations that we were kind of eavesdropping on. So what did you talk about? What kind of, let's put it this way, what kind of, out of your conversations, what kind of bubbles to the surface? And if we could get some microphones for sharing, please. What bubbles to the surface? What's emerging from your conversations? Great.
We had a really interesting conversation here around seeing and believing, right? And something that you had said, or actually Dan had said about, doesn't matter how it's done, it matters that it's done, and that there might be many ways that you can make something happen. So we talked quite a bit about that. We also took it into the place of ethical issues and the means versus the ends. And sometimes it matters how it's done, it affects things, but how it's done related to the Vietnamese magician who was on the screen there. I think he kind of said, well, it's also a matter of practice, right? It seems magical until you know how it's done and the fact that there's knowledge in there. So we processed a lot of that in terms of thinking about the wonder of magic, but that there are many possibilities to create things and innovation. And it's our belief systems that allow us to go on this journey, but it takes a lot of that effort to happen. So the conversation that I think really stuck for me is around kind of the means versus ends and what goes on in between to create the space of belief that allows you to go on the journey and do the effort to create the ends.
Thank you.
Is it means and ends? Because that's what we were hearing too, but there's also something about, does it matter if the intentionality is X as compared to even the means or the ends? You know, it's my intention to bring wonder in the world, but I'm having a reaction. So it's like, it's so tricky what you're doing here. Yeah. It's like, that's weird.
No pun intended.
So we started getting into a conversation around trust and the being the fool, the person who was fooled, and how that's on the person who's fooling. It's not on the person who's trusting, because we're hardwired to trust. And it's okay to trust, because we couldn't function if we didn't trust. So I don't want to be the person who goes through life constantly skeptical about everything. I want to be the trusting person. And if you're going to consistently fool me, okay, sooner or later that's going to stop working. But it's on you. It's not my fault that you are the fool.
Thank you, Karen. What else? Reflections. John?
We talked about some really important stuff here at this table, and kind of the nature of things and how important the nature of things really are. And that if you could do things consistent with the nature of things, you'll get whatever the results are that you expected. And we talked about behavior and results. When I was at Kraft, my whole thing with employees was behavior drives results, not the other way around. So I never cared about the results. Imagine having somebody, if you owned Kraft stock at that time, you might have thought you were at risk. But I would tell you, quite frankly, the opposite. I drove what was in the box for Philippe's piece. I said, let's make sure that we have the right stuff in the box inside the people. And my job then became very clear, running the organization, was to fend off the evil one on the outside, whoever that was. Could be the CEO, could be some finance dude. And I would fend them off, and I was very good at that. I come from Detroit, and I've been in a lot of fights. I'm good on the street. So I'd take care of those people and let the behavior and what was in the box take care of itself. And 99 out of 100 times, they never let me down.
Jenny?
This may seem like a non sequitur, but it's come in kind of slowly to me over this time that we spent together. I'm a yogi. I practice yoga quite a bit. And one of the things I love when the teacher says, I lie on the ground at the very end, and she says, take up space. And it's this really nice kind of permission to take up more space than I typically would, and to lay kind of star out on the ground. And watching people and the way that we teach and the way we receive, I just think that the way to teach in this space, and you demonstrated it through your magic and through our table talk, is that you teach without taking up so much space, and you learn by taking up more space.
Wow. Well, I think that's a good note to... Wait a minute. What you're saying is... Okay. Just a thought for the next meeting's hospitality suite. So, thank you for a wonderful first half. We're going to take a breather right now for 10 minutes, and you won't want to be late because we have 4 more magical experiences when we come back.